Hi, and welcome to another video. For a long time, the 4X strategy genre has been dominated by the Civilization franchise. In today's video, we shall be taking a look at what, in my opinion, could be a serious contender to the Civilization franchise's dominance of the 4X strategy genre, and that game is Humankind. Developed by Amplitude Studios, Humankind offers a very interesting take on the 4X strategy game, providing some very cool and unique twists and concepts to the genre. The game has been out since August the 17th, and during this time I have played the game extensively, and I have to say I have thoroughly enjoyed it. Massively so, in fact. My name is Danisstoned, and you're watching my review for Humankind, and why this game could be a serious contender to the Civilization franchise.
You are watching Danisstoned.
First off, let's start with a simple question. What makes Humankind different than the dominant turn-based empire builder that is Civilization? Well, the answer is not much, and I don't mean that in a bad way. The game is turn-based like Civilization. It is an empire builder, again just like Civilization. In a matter of fact, the game is heavily inspired by Civilization, almost a carbon copy. But what makes it different are the small and subtle changes in the genre that makes a massive difference overall, and this is the brilliance of the game. First of all, let's go over what in my opinion is the most important difference, and that is combat. Amplitude Studios have come up with a fantastic yet overwhelmingly simple combat system that rewards strategic thinking and penalises rash decisions. Just like Civilization, the game has multiple unit types that you can stack together to form armies. But instead of using units to deal damage once per turn, the developers have come up with the brilliant idea of making combat into a 3-round struggle within one game turn. Victory is achieved by either destroying all enemy units or capturing a strategic flag placed on the battlefield within the proximity of the defender. If units are not killed within the first 3 rounds, then the turn ends, and then the battle resumes on the following turn, with another 3 rounds of fighting. Potentially stretching combat over multiple turns adds another layer of thinking. It allows you to try to bring reinforcements to the battle location if needed, so the longer the battle goes on, the more dangerous it is potentially for you or your foe, each able to try and reinforce with units that are not too far away. But what really decides a battle is not the direct combat within these 3 rounds within a game turn, but the deployment of your troops, and this is where the game rewards strategic thinking. Before your troops engage, there is a deployment phase, allowing you to place your units on the battlefield. Choosing your battleground and placing your troops is vital to your success. Troops on high ground will deal more damage to the enemy, crossing a river will reduce damage dealt, and so on. Some areas of the map are only accessible from certain points, so using the terrain is vital, where you can create bottleneck and flanking situations. In my many hours of playing, I have found that battles are won or lost depending on where you engage and how you deploy your units, and the game rewards you for this. There is no better satisfaction than crushing an enemy army that significantly outnumbers your own due to the strategic placement of your troops, allowing you to turn the tide in a war in which you thought was previously lost. You really do feel like a commander on the battlefield, and that is incredibly satisfying. The following cool innovation added to the genre by Amplitude is somewhat the staple of the game that they're trying to sell, and that is culture. In Humankind, you start in the Neolithic era, and once you fill out a list of objectives for that specific era, you progress to the next one, and then the process repeats itself, each era giving you access to new technology available to research. Now, you may think there's nothing innovative in that, and there isn't, but it is the culture mechanic that they have implemented which is a breath of fresh air. For each era you pass, you gain the opportunity to choose from a set of cultures to which your empire identifies itself. Each culture can only be chosen once, and as soon as it is selected, the culture is locked for the other players. Selecting a culture provides the player with some benefits, such as specific unit types, unique buildings, and some passive bonuses. What is cool though, as you progress through the eras, your empire evolves culturally speaking. For instance, in the ancient era, if I were to select the Phoenicians as my culture, then my nation would be called the Phoenicians, and cities would be named after real urban centres of that culture that actually existed throughout history. Each culture also has its very own art style, which is represented through the cities on the campaign map. Once I moved on to the classical era, then I would have a choice of selecting a new culture to which my empire identifies, and the cities' names and art styles will change accordingly. Humankind also adds a twist to the way cities work. Since this is a turn-based empire builder, cities are a fundamental aspect of gameplay. They symbolise your dominion over the land, house your pops, and are the productive centres of your empire in which you produce buildings and units for the good of your civilization, just like in Sid Meier's Civilization franchise. So what is different? Well, unlike Civilization, you have two territorial entities that go hand in hand: cities and their smaller counterparts, outposts. Cities, as we previously stated, are the urban and productive centres of your empire. But unlike in Civilization, where you have settlers that found cities, cities in Humankind all start as outposts and can grow into cities. The number of cities is capped, and this cap can be increased through technologies and civics. Outposts, on the other hand, cannot produce anything. So what good are outposts for? Well, the game is divided into regions represented by dotted lines on the map. Founding outposts allows you to lock down a region under your control, and you may only found one outpost per region. Once a player has founded an outpost in a specific region, no other outpost may be founded by another player or by the player in that region until the said outpost is destroyed. Outposts do not have a hard border, so any nation may move troops into the region in which the outpost is founded without the need for a declaration of war. It is these very outposts that can be turned into cities to produce buildings and units, and when turned into a city, that region gains a hard border that other nations cannot cross unless they declare war. Now, you may remember that I said the number of cities is capped, and this is where outposts become important, since you can't just turn every outpost into a city. Outposts can be attached to a city, thus giving the city access to the neighbouring region's resources. The attached outpost pops, if there are any, while also expanding your city's hard border. This system removes the possibility of spanning cities, forcing the player to think along two lines. Where do I place my outpost first, and which outpost do I turn into cities since they are capped? Overall, Humankind has been an incredibly refreshing and addictive experience, and while on the surface it may look like a carbon copy of Civilization, but the game sets itself apart from it thanks to the small but subtle changes, all while maintaining that one more turn mindset that has kept us up till dawn. If you have ever played Civilization before, it will not take you long to get to grips with the game. Combat is refreshing, and can be challenging depending on your difficulty settings, where strategic thinking is rewarded and rash decisions are costly. Watching your empire evolve culturally through the eras and having this represented in-game on the map is a nice touch, and gives the player a real sense of attachment to the culture he is creating, making empire building more engaging, thus truly influencing the path of humankind. Graphics wise, the game looks absolutely beautiful. Now for some of the cons. It would not be a review without any, would it? But to be fair, there are not that many. The most notable issue I had was with the era goals to change the era. They are all very similar and quite generic, such as kill X amounts of units, obtain X amounts of technologies, etc. Each era advance only increases the amount that you need to fulfill the said era goal. The user interface does also seem a little clumsy, and you do feel that extra work is needed on that front, and diplomacy does feel rather shallow. The pacing of the game can be a slight issue. On normal pace settings, which is the standard for most players, the game lasts 300 turns, which is barely enough time to finish the tech tree. Loading times can also be a bit long depending on the size of the map, so I recommend an SSD, and of course there are a few bugs at the moment, notably desyncing issues in multiplayer and a few turn never ends bugs in single player. These can be fixed by reloading the game, but I do expect these to be patched soon. Oh, and of course yes, there's no Sean Bean. In essence, would I recommend this game? Absolutely 100%. Is it going to be a serious contender to Civilization? Well, based on what I've seen so far, and if they patched a few bugs and pacing issues, then absolutely. It all seems so familiar, yet offers innovative changes through the simplest of tweaks. It's about time that the Civilization franchise has got a competitor, and boy, has it got one. My name is Danisstoned, and thank you for joining me in this video. If you enjoyed things, of course please don't hesitate to hit that like button down below, and if you want to see more content just like this, then don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified as soon as there's another video. With all that said and done, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll hopefully catch you all in the next one. Bye for now.